Good morning and welcome to Tuesday's Maths. So, yesterday we were rewinding all our learning on coordinates, reflections and translations. Today we are going to be reasoning. So we're going to be looking at shapes with coordinates and using their properties to reason out what missing values must be. So a little bit trickier than yesterday, but we're going to use yesterday's knowledge to help us with today's problems, and we will be absolutely fantastic at it, I am sure. Okay, here's our first problem to get our brains warmed up today. So, what is the shape on the screen? It's a rectangle. Why is it a rectangle? Well, it's a quadrilateral because it's got 4 sides. It's got 4 right angles. So that means it's either a rectangle or a square. And the reason it is a rectangle is because the sides are not the same length. So it's got 2 sets of sides that are the same length. If it had 4 sides the same, then it would be a square. But this one is a rectangle. So we've got 3 corners or 3 vertices labelled, but the 4th one just says A. Now, I want you to use the grid, use the coordinates, look at the axes, and I want you to tell me what the coordinates are of point A. And when you know those coordinates, I want you to have a look at the other coordinates of the other points and see if you can start to reason out why that might be the case. And actually, if the numbers weren't there and the grid lines weren't there, could you have worked that out anyway? Have a minute, pause the video. Okay, let's have a look at this then. So, you have probably worked out that if you go across and up the x-axis coordinate, the x-coordinate would be 11 and the y-coordinate would be 7. So the value of A is brackets 11, 7. Right, let's work this out about why this is though, and if the grid wasn't there, how could I work this out? Right, well, we'll look at the x coordinate first of all. So, if you draw a line down to the x-axis, you can see it lands on 11. If that number wasn't there, however, what other bit of information do I have from this diagram already that could tell me that the x-coordinate of A is 11? Well, hopefully you can see that here, this point here, which is in the same line as A, on the same grid line, that has the x-coordinate of 11. So A also has the x-coordinate of 11. Right, if we wanted to work out the y-coordinate, we would go along to the y-axis, which shows us a 7. There we go. Right, which other piece of information, however, could have told me that without looking at the y-axis? Well, here, this point is in line with A and it has got a y-coordinate of 7, which tells me this must also be a y-coordinate of 7. Perfect, well done. Okay, here's question number 2 then. So this time, try not to look at the axes, try not to look at the numbers. First of all, look at the shape you've got. Look at all the other information you've got. Gather all your facts first of all. Can you work out the coordinates of A without looking at the axes? Pause the video, have a go. Okay, let's gather all the information we can first of all. First of all, it's a square. This tells me that all the sides are the same length. That might help me later. Right, I want to work out point A. So to work out the x-axis, I need to look at what is in line going down to the x-axis. And this is where a lot of people make mistakes. This is where a lot of people, the common misconception is they think to find the x-axis, they need to go along because the x-axis goes along. And I understand that. But you've got to think about the fact that the grid lines that touch the x-axis are going down through the x-axis. So you need to look down to work out the x-axis coordinate. Now, I can see that the other point that it's in line with, the x-coordinate was 8. So I know that this one must also be 8. And actually, if I look down to the x-axis, I can see it there. Right, now we need to look at the y-coordinate. And again, people often look down, but you need to be looking across because you need to see what it's in line with on the y-axis. So I can see over here that this coordinate is in line with this one on the y-axis. It would have the same value. Make sure you look at the right number. I want the y-coordinate, which would be 4. And if we zoom out, I can see that that is the value on the y-axis over here. So the answer is 8, 4. Right then, number 3. And for this one, we don't have the grid lines or the axes to help us. But that's okay, we can still do it. So first of all, gather your facts. This is a square. So all the sides are going to be the same length, and this might help me work it out. So what I would do if I was you is I would draw the grid lines, not the grid lines, sorry, I would draw the axes around this shape as if where they would be if this was labelled with an axes and grid lines and everything. And then I would start drawing lines across and lines down to label my axes, because this is going to help me work this out. If you're not sure, keep playing the video and I will explain it. If you want to have a go on your own first, have a go and then play the video back. Okay then, so here are my grid lines down the side. So here's my y-axis, here's my x-axis. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line down and just make sure that I have got that in the right place. There we go. So I now need to label this point here on my axes. Sorry, I know the screen's a bit funny today. So, is it going to be 11 or is it going to be 9? Well, I've gone down and I've hit the x-axis, so I want the x-coordinate, which would be 11. I'm now going to draw my line across, and it's hitting the y-axis. So I want the y-coordinate, which is 6. If you want to label other parts of this axis, you absolutely can do. So I could put this here, and then I could say, well, I know that this is 9. And this might actually help you check your answer, because you can see here, if you drew your line here and you said, oh, well, I think that this coordinate's 8. Well, that's not right, because 8's not in this coordinate and they're both on the same level. They're on the same line. It's the y coordinate. Oh, yeah, I made the mistake, got the wrong one. And that tells me it must be 9. If I drew a line down here, like this shows me it's hitting the x-coordinate, so on the x-coordinate, so this shows me this is 8. And this is a good way for me to check my answer. I can see here there's a difference of 3, and I can see here there's a difference of 3. And that's going to help me because I know this is a square, so I know that this length is the same as this length, is the same as this length, is the same as this length. Right, now I've labelled it all, I can work out my A coordinates. So I can see the x-coordinate, go down, remember, would be 11. And go across for the y, 6. Perfect, well done. Okay then, next question. This is kind of our think together for today. So, Eden and Noah have been given some axes showing 2 squares. The squares are identical. Okay, remember that these are squares because this might help you work things out in a moment. So, I would like you to work out the coordinates of point B and C. And once you've done that, have a go at working out G, E and F. If I was you, I would start labelling the coordinates, label the axes, sorry. Think about what you know. These questions are so much about gathering your facts. What do you already know? Pause the video, have a go, remembering that these are squares. Okay, so I've labelled everything I know. I've put these lines on, I've drawn them across, so I know that the A was at 1, 1, so I know this is 1 and this is 1. I know that this was at 1, 4, so I know that this is 1 and this is 4. Right, okay, I now need to try and work out B and C. Now, I need to remember the fact that these are squares. Tell me something about a square. Yes, they all have 4 right angles. Tell me something else about a square. Yes, they have 4 sides. Tell me something else about those 4 sides. All the sides are the same. Perfect. So, if you can work out how long this side is, you can work out how long this side is, and you can work out what this coordinate would be here. Well, if you know that this starts at 1 and goes up to 4, what's the difference? How long is this side? How many squares is this side? Well, 4 take away 1 would be 3. So this is showing 1, 2, 3. So because of that then, this has got to be another 1, 2, 3. We were starting at 1, we're adding on 3. So this point here must be 4. Now I can tell you the coordinates of B and C. So B, you go remember x-axis first would be 4, 1. and C is going to be 4, 4. Well done if you got those right. Okay, time for Q. So again, I've drawn my lines, I've labelled everything I know, I've gathered all the facts I know. I know that H is -6, -2, -6 being the x coordinate, remember? So at this point it's -6, and I know that this point's -2. So I can tell you that G has got a y coordinate of -2. I'm sorry, it's a bit wobbly. But I don't know what the x coordinate is yet. I've not worked that out yet. Right. I'm a bit stuck here. What was something that it told me in the question? What's another fact that I know? Well, I know, because the question told me, that these are identical squares. So I know that the length of this square was 3. So therefore, I can reason that the side of this square is also 3. So if this is -6 and this is 3 steps to the right, 3 steps towards what would be 0, -6 add 3, I can reason that this point is -3. So now I know that G is -3, -2. There we go. Right, if I know that then, so if I know that this side is worth 3, this side has a length of 3, because it's a square. So if it starts at -2, add on 3, this point would be -5. So then I know that this point here would be brackets -3, comma, -5 brackets. And this point here would be -6, comma, -5. Well done. Okay, you've got 3 more questions and you're done. So don't give up, keep going. You're doing really well. This is tricky, but you can do it. You've just got to gather your facts. Okay, so this would be in your workbook. However, these are questions from an earlier workbook. So don't go flicking through your book you've got at home to find them, because you won't, okay? They're not in there. But they are on Google Classroom and Dojo if you want to print them off, or you can print screen it and draw on it on your laptop, just like I have been doing using Paint or something. So you've got squares, P and Q. Again, gather that fact. Remember that it's a square. Square P was translated 4 units left and 8 units down to make square Q. Okay, translated. So gather your facts. That tells me that the shape stays the same. Tells me that it doesn't get any bigger and doesn't get any smaller. It's just been moved. Okay. Can you work out the coordinates of C and D? So to get from coordinate A and translating it to coordinate C is just a nice, easy translation question. You're translating 4 left and 8 down. To work out D, you're going to have to do what we were doing earlier by looking at P, label everything you know, and then translate it. So you've got quite a lot of steps to do here. Have a go. Okay, so to work out C, first of all, I know that A and C are the same point on the squares. They've just been, this square's been picked up, moved 3 squares and down 8 squares. So I know that this point on, if I was looking at the y coordinate, the x coordinate, A's x coordinate is 1. So this is 1 square across, and I need to move it 4 squares to the left. So if I moved it 1 square, I'd now be on 0. I had to move 3 more units, so that'd be -1, -2, -3. So I know that the x coordinate of C is going to be -3. Right, I also know that Y's, A's y coordinate was 6. So this is 0.6, and I'm going down 8 units. So I'd go down 6 units to get to 0, and then I need to take away another 2, so -1, -2. So I know that C's y coordinate is -2. Well done if you got that right. Okay, to work out D then, I can see that this point and this point are the same, and this point has been translated to here. However, I don't know the coordinates of this point. So to work out the coordinates of this point, I first need to work out these coordinates and then translate them. So back on this one then, back on P, label everything we know. So we know that this y coordinate is 6. We know that this x coordinate is 1, and we know that this x coordinate is 5. So I can label part of this already because I know it's 5, something, but I don't know that other coordinate. Right, what other information do I know? Well, I know by looking back at this, I circled it, I know that they are squares. What do I know about squares? They have the same equal length sides. So this side goes from 1 to 5. So this has got how many squares in between it? The length of 4 squares. So that tells me that this side must be 4 squares. That tells me this side must be 4 squares. It tells me that this side must be 4 squares. Right, does that help me to work this out? Well, I can see it's right because 1 add 4 would be 5, so I can see that that's right here. So if I know that this coordinate is 6, I know this length is 4, this coordinate must be 2, 6 take away 4 is 2. So I know that this is 5, 2. Is that my answer? No, not quite yet, because I now need to translate it to get to point D. So I start with a x coordinate of 5 and I move it 4 units to the left. So it would go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And actually I can see that it's on that same line as the other one. So actually I can see that the x coordinate is going to be 1. And then I need to do the y coordinate, which was 2, and I need to take away, so I need to go down 8. So I go down how many to get to 0? I have to go down 2 to get to 0, and then I've got to take away another 6. So this would be 1 minus 6. Really well done if you got that right. Okay, it's been pretty tricky today in part, so this is going to be your last question for today. So well done. If you're still sticking with it, if you're still going, I'm really, really impressed, so well done. Right, here are 2 identical isosceles triangles. Okay, pause. What do you know about an isosceles triangle? Bring that knowledge back to the front of your brain. What do you know about an isosceles triangle? An isosceles triangle is a triangle with 2 sides the same and 2 angles the same. Okay, and it tells you that afterwards. It says AC, so the length A to C equals, so is the same as the length B to C, and the length D to F is the same as E to F. So you can see that there, that you can see these are 2 isosceles triangles. So first part of this question, what are the coordinates of B and C? And then B, what are the coordinates of D and E? Okay, this is tricky. Have a look. Think about everything you know. Label everything you know. Because it's a triangle, think about how you might be able to work out that top part, that C coordinate. How might you be able to work that out? If you know what A is, you know what B is, and it's an isosceles triangle, what might you be able to work out? Last little push for today. Keep going. Okay, first of all, label what you know. So you can label that this here on this axis is -4. This here obviously is 0. And you can label that here on the y-axis is 2 because A is -4, 2, it's 2 up. So this is the number 2. Right, you can work out B straight away then. Okay, B has got a y coordinate of 2. What's the x coordinate? Well, how far along has it got? It's gone along 0. So B is 0, 2. Right, now let's work out C. I have drawn another line, here. Why have I been able to draw this line here? Well, if you've got an isosceles triangle, this side and this side are the same length. So that means that this point here is midway between these 2 points here. If you drew a line cutting this in half, it would go through the middle of this line, this base, and it would go through this top point here because these 2 sides are the same length and these 2 angles are the same. So if I draw a line down the middle here and I know that this is -4 and I know that this is 0, what's that halfway point going to be? What's that x coordinate going to be? Halfway between -4 and 0 would be ooh, it's a bit of a weird one, but -2. So point C would be -2 for the x-axis and 5 for the y, because it already tells you that up here in the question. Okay, next bit then, last little bit, and then we are done for today. So, what are the coordinates of point D and point E? Now, there's loads of different ways that you can look at doing this question. You know what F is, so you could look at the relationship between C and A and C and B and use the same for F and D and F and E. You can look at how much C has been translated to get to F and then do the same to B and the same to A. Okay, it's completely up to you how you would want to do this question. I'm going to do a little bit of both to show you both ways of working it out. So, the relationship between C and B. So let's just put -2 in here so we can see it. Well, this is -2 and this is 0. So how many squares across difference is there from -2 to 0? Well, it's adding on 2 squares to the right. So that means that rather than, so F is 3, so that means that E would be 5. So I'm adding on 2 squares. Let's look at what the difference is for the y coordinate then. Well, C was 5. B's y coordinate was 2. So from 5 to 2, what's the difference? What's the length? It's 3. So if F starts at -2 and you go down 3, it would be -5. There we go. Now this time, let's have a go at translating it. So, what was the translation to get from -2, 5, which is C, to 3 -2, which is F? Well, to get from -2 to 3, you've moved across 5. So you've gone, I'm just going to draw it like this so you can see it. So I've gone to the right 5, and to get from 5 on the y-axis to -2, I've gone down 7. So I now do the same thing to A to work out D. So A was at -4. If I go across 5, 4 to get to there, 1 more. So that means that this would have an x coordinate of 1. And then I need to go down 7. So I was at +2. So if I go down 2 to get to 0, then I've got another 5 to go. So it would be 1 - 5. Really well done if you got those right. That was tricky today. So well done if you persevered and kept going. See you tomorrow.